Hey everyone, it's day 49 of the 100-day video challenge, and today I want to talk about something that I have been sharing with some of my friends and family around why we do things that we know we shouldn't do. And I kind of asked everyone who kind of like does things that they know they shouldn't do. Think about food, think about eating things that you shouldn't really be eating, doing things like going out with people that you probably know you shouldn't be going out with, doing like literally going to events that you don't really want to go to. Lots of different things that we do that we say, I'm never going to do that again. Smoking, drinking, maybe drugs, I don't know. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about that because I'm probably not the only one who ever has to deal with doing things that you know you shouldn't do, but you keep doing it because it ends up being a pattern that you can't pinpoint why you do it. It's a subconscious thing, and as you know, I love subconscious, so we want to deal with why our subconscious is making us do things that we don't want to do or know that we shouldn't be doing. And as I've looked further into that, particularly I use myself as a guinea pig, and also my clients get to experience some of the awesomeness that we can find in our subconscious to find out what's really going on. What we've found is the reason why we do things that we know we shouldn't do is that we have what we call an inner rebel. Put your hand up if you think you've got an inner rebel. I know I have got a massive inner rebel. Most of the people I know have inner rebels. So what happens if someone tells you you shouldn't do that, you can feel that resistance come up saying, well, I don't care if you tell me I can't do it. I'm going to do it anyway because I'm my own person. I can make my own decisions. And usually when someone says, well, you shouldn't do that, we actually do the opposite, or we actually do that thing, the opposite of what they tell us to do, because we all have this inner rebel within us. I know myself, I'm actually quite young at heart. If someone tells me I can't do anything, I actually have like a teenager inside of me that just comes out, sticks the finger up and says, you know what, I don't care what you say. I'm actually going to do exactly what you tell me not to do. Now, the issue is that we also have the inner rebel, but we also have the inner parent and the part of us that says you shouldn't do that. So this is what game is going on within us, is that we have the parent side, the inner parent that says, Kim, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be eating this. What happens is that the inner rebel will come along and go, I don't care what you say, I'm still going to do it. Now, there's so much advantages for the inner rebel to come out and do it because it feels like fun. It's a little bit naughty, and it's going against the rules, which, who wants to follow rules anyway? The issue is that we're giving ourselves rules and we're giving ourselves what you shouldn't do, and then we do the opposite because of our inner rebel, and we just say, well, bad luck, I'm going to do it anyway, regardless of if you want to do that or not. So what we need to do in instances where you recognize that there's something that you don't want to carry on doing, and I'm just going to say recognize because there's no judgment over it, and don't judge yourself over things that you do because there's always reasons behind them and it's all learning, right? So when you recognize there's something that you should do but you're not doing it, what you need to do is you need to, instead of being the parent of yourself and saying you shouldn't do it, I reckon you give yourself permission to do it. So you say, sure, eat that chocolate. Sure, go and drink that alcohol. Sure, do it. What happens when you give yourself the permission to do that thing? The inner rebel doesn't come out. The inner rebel doesn't come out. And what happens is there's none of that power play between the two sides of yourself. So in actual fact, when you say, I'm not going to make that wrong to drink or eat or do that thing, I'm going to give myself permission to do it. And what happens is there's another part of you that comes in that goes, you know what, is that good for you? Like, does that feel good for you? And it connects you to what I would call your inner wisdom rather than your inner rebel. We want this inner wisdom to come out rather than the inner rebel that goes, you know what? I can make a decision based around the permission. I'm giving myself permission to do that. Does that feel good? I can now make a choice and a decision from my inner wisdom as to whether that does or doesn't. And then that behavior stops. So I want you to try that. Now, that's working with ourselves. If you recognize there's something within yourself that you're not doing, give yourself permission to do it, and then watch how your behavior changes. I had an example that was really interesting. I used to do to-do lists. Like, I had so many things on my to-do list. If you saw my desk right now, you would see lots and lots of to-do lists here. Now, what I would do is I would have this to-do list every day, and it would literally stay the same every day because my inner parent says, Kim, you need to be doing all these things. My inner rebel says, no way, I'm not doing any of that. So as soon as I sat down one day and I said, you know what, don't do them. Just don't do anything on the list. I'm giving you permission not to do anything. All of a sudden, inside you're going, but I want to do something. It's really interesting. And I remember I just played around with just doing one thing. So there was I just said, okay, I'm not getting through this list, so I'm just going to do one thing on this list. Because I just said, you know, I don't have to do those things, and I'm just going to do one thing on the list. That thing took 2 seconds to do, and I literally then was going, oh, what else can I do? Rather than having this list sitting here going, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. And my inner parent going, you need to do it, you need to do it. So playing this game with yourself is really cool. Now I want to show you something really, really fun, which is doing this with other people. It's so cool. So think about, I'm going to take you back to the real basics of when you're younger or when you have children or whatever, and you say, stop, you're crying. Now, as soon as someone says, stop your crying, it's just like, and it like continues on crying. It doesn't actually stop. What happens is either you or the child or whatever tries to push it down, but it just stays there. And that anger and that frustration and those tears just stay within them, and it continues on. And that's why a lot of people kind of have breakdowns by the time they're in their 40s and 50s, because there's so much stuff in there that they're pushing down and trying not to do. I've tested this with my own children, where a situation has been where someone has said, stop your crying, and I could feel that whole like trying to stop. But I was like, you know, I turned around and I just said, you know what, cry as much as you want. Cry as much as you want. I'm giving you permission to cry as much as you want. Guess what? Stopped instantly. Because the inner wisdom goes, do I really need to cry? But when someone else says, stop your crying, the inner rebel comes in. But we want to cry, you know. If you give someone permission to do what they want to do, then what happens is their inner wisdom comes out and they can make their own decisions and their own choices. So try it with kids. Try it with kids. When they, you know, don't do something or whatever, don't make your bed today. Sleep in the messy bed. That's fine. They will then, their inner wisdom will kick in to, you will then hopefully recognize that this actually isn't that great. If you keep kind of, you know, pushing for things that they don't want to do, their inner rebel's just always going to be there, and they're just not going to do it. There is a saying that what you resist persists. So it's like, if someone doesn't want to do something, including yourself, if you have resistance over it, doesn't matter what happens, you will resist it and it'll continue to be an issue. If you give yourself permission, give others permission. Again, we're always taught to push and to make things happen and stuff like that. But in actual fact, it's just permission to be yourself, permission for you to be yourself, permission for others to be themselves. And as soon as you give others permission to be themselves and it's easy to say, to act how you want to act, and they can then make the decision as to what feels good to them. You find that the bullying and the yelling and the screaming and the crying and all that sort of thing once they're given permission to do that, they just go, well, I'm not getting a charge from it. I'm not rebelling. I'm not doing anything because no one's rebelling against me. So it's not going to persist. It'll just disappear. So try this. It is so powerful. The secret is just to give permission to yourself to do it, permission to others to do things, and the inner rebel won't come up, but the inner wisdom will. And it's so incredibly powerful. So try it. Look at the stuff that you're resisting. Help other people with the stuff that they're resisting and say, you know what, don't do that. Or do it. I'm going to give you permission just to do it, to do whatever feels good to you. And the inner wisdom comes in and goes, it's like that whole thing, all you want to do is just sit there and watch TV if you're actually wanting to have a bit of a rest or a break. Now, if someone says, no, you can't do it, that's all you want to do, right? Inner rebel comes up. But if someone goes, you know what, stay on the lounge and watch TV all day if you want. You might do it for one day, but after that, the inner wisdom comes in and goes, this is actually quite boring. And it will start to want to do other things. So play around with the inner wisdom, the inner rebel, and the inner parent, and start to feel what's really, really working for you. And stop resisting stuff, because the resistance will create persistence. It'll stay around. If you want change, give permission. I'll see you next time.